It is down Mount Vernon Avenue, as we all know. Beautiful sky and a beautiful orange tree. As we come down a neighborhood where things have changed here and there over the years. The Birchmere obviously wasn't always here at this location, but it sure is now, and you can kind of tell the joy that people have by making this turn in to this beautiful drive. There's the sign. There's the Birchmere entrance sign, as we all know. And you guys know this drive. It's timeless. And I'm meeting David McClure, my associate from Zebra Press, to discuss a little bit about our interview with the Birchmere with Gary and Stephen Moore, to talk a little bit about the new book, All Roads Lead to the Birchmere. And there we go. Boom. We'll talk to you guys soon. Welcome, everybody, to yet another episode of Living on Music. I'm Steve Houk, and as you can see, it's not hard to see where we are for this episode of Living on Music, and with the man who brings everybody in here from decades ago. I've spent so much time at this amazing place. I've had both of these gentlemen on my Living on Music show, Gary and Michael Jaworek, talking about the Birchmere, Stephen Moore talking about his life and career as an author. They've joined forces for All Roads Lead to the Birchmere, and we're going to talk today, as we wander around some of the bowels of the Birchmere, we're going to talk a little bit about the book, how these guys got together and things like that. Guys, thanks so much for being on Living on Music again.
Thank you. It's great.
It's another time, and I think they might be the 100th guest that I've had on the show.
Of
and
course.
There will be a little swag for that, so you got to be ready for what might happen. But
we need prizes.
We're going to walk a little bit around the Birchmere and talk a little bit about the book. Gary, look, you've been the Birchmere, boss, the owner for decades. What is it like to have the history out there for people to kind of take in and soak in now?
Well, it's overwhelming, to say the least. I had no intention of writing it, but always wanted to do a picture book. I have thousands of pictures and all. And Steve did a great book on John Duffy.
Yes.
And he came and he interviewed me, and we talked for hours, and it ended up almost a chapter in his book. And a few months after his book was out, he came to me and he said, let's do one on the Birchmere. And I said, no, there's nothing to tell about the Birchmere. I mean, everybody knows the artists and the acts and that sort of thing. I was reluctant. I don't know why. I didn't want to be in it myself. Right. I didn't want it to be about me. I read because it really isn't. It's about the acts and the performers and the great shows we've had here.
Well, it's about the place you created and brought them in, but yes, you're very humble, sir.
That was a progressive movement. This is the third location. Of course, we've been here now 25 years.
Right.
But it was hard at first to dig back 55 years.
Right.
And as I'm still moving forward, we're planning, scheduling next year.
Yeah.
And he, like I said, I used to tell him, you open all these doors in the daytime and I got to go home at night and close them,
Right, exactly.
But I enjoyed it. We disagreed in the beginning because on some things, because he sees the place different than I do. I'm on this side of the wall. And he taught me a lot, especially about writing and about, I would tell a story and I'd leave things out purposely, and he'd say, you can't do that.
Right, and that's the position of what would be a co-author or somebody who takes that perspective that you don't see from outside. Steve, talk a little bit about what this, you and I have talked at length, long length on Living on Music.
Long.
Oh, never. As like most of my shows. But they're wonderful stories, and that was a great story about your life and career. You've written books with Surf and with Helen Hayes, Johnny Holiday, as we talked about, Mr. Duffy. What was the difference between doing something about the Birchmere?
Well, the difference is it's writing about a place, and Gary's a really important, deep, important figure who made it all happen. But it's not an autobiography. So that was one thing that was different. The other books I wrote with the other folks, everybody was reluctant that's worked with me, seriously, to write a book with me for different reasons. But I somehow broke through that, and the people, aside from Gary, were performers. And once they got into it, it takes a while to get into it. Once they got into it, they started performing their lives. For me, it was great. And they were, it was fascinating.
Right.
But with Gary was reluctant because he does, in the foreword by Buzz McLean, it's like things Gary doesn't want you to read because he's a very private, humble person. So when he finally started telling me these things, this would be an example of an exhilarating day, and most of the days were exhilarating for the last 2 years. I'd be talking to Gary for about 3 hours in his office, drinking coffee, about Arlo Guthrie, all about the 35 times Arlo's been here, Arlo's stories. Then he would take me down to the green room, the dressing room, and I'd meet Arlo, one of my heroes. And I'm sitting with Arlo for an hour, and he's right in my face, you know, making me laugh.
Right.
Then I'd eat dinner here and see Arlo's show. Right. And then I would go home and maybe spend another 3 hours transcribing and kind of writing about it.
Sure.
And this was about a 9-10 hour day, and I did that almost every day for 2 years.
Yeah. And that's where we came to with this. What we're going to do is we're going to take you guys, instead of just sitting and talking, which we do in other interviews, we're going to take you on a little walk around the Birchmere and show you a little bit of kind of why this place is so special. Many of you know already that it is, and talk a little bit more about the book. Come on, let's go. So here we are in this esteemed hallway. We talked about it a little bit the other day in the survey, in the little site survey we did. You said that there are probably a whole number of posters that aren't even up here in this amazing room.
Oh, God, I don't have enough wall.
I love that. Amy Grant in the book, and I've just started perusing this. I just got my hands on it from these guys about 24 hours ago, and I can't put it down, and I'm still looking at it. And there's a picture of Amy Grant when Vince is talking about the book, and we'll talk about Vince in a minute. But Amy said, her poster in here somewhere says, "Woohoo, I made it to the Birchmere." And I'm like, there you go. Amy Grant said she was really happy to make it to the Birchmere. Let's start walking down the hall a little bit, you guys, and talk a little bit, Gary, about what this hallway means to you, as well as just images of people.
Well, I still come down here every once in a while, walk through and look at them myself. You know, there's James Burton all of a sudden just hit me and made me remember some things. I think that's what got Steve to talk me into the book, because I wanted to tell a story about some musicians that, you know, some people come here, they think they come to the bluegrass only, or they come to the R&B only, or they come to the country and whatever. And there's so many, like, as you read the book, you know I champion Mickey Newbury, and I want people to know who he is, and I always say, I envy you finding this person and getting into his music, because you should do that.
Right.
And that was my main reason in writing the book. I wanted people to know that, and there'll never be another Danny Gatton. There'll never be another Tony Rice. And people, if you don't know these names and these stories, and I think that Steve made the stories just as interesting. His interviews were wonderful. But I want people to get to know these people.
Yeah.
And that was my pride in the book.
Exactly, and that's what pops up in here. What do you add to that, Steve?
When he mentions Mickey Newbury, we have chapters on all the Texas songwriters, and that's Chris Christopherson, that is Lyle Lovett, Roger Miller. We have about 40 people that are the Texas songwriters. So that's a real thrust of the book, because Gary loves them, and he wanted to proselytize them for people that don't know about them.
Well, songwriters.
Texas songwriters.
I think they're the, you know, you can't write a song, you ain't got to play no music.
Right.
You know.
And also these pictures, I counted them, it's like 452 pictures in the hallway. And when he says he has others, he has thousands of others.
God.
So
Yeah, that's spectacular. This really is a place where I think people who have come to the Birchmere to see shows run through here, get their seat, settle in, and then they come out and they walk this beautiful hallway that really says a lot about what's in this. In fact, the meat of this is really these artists. You talk a little bit about who they are and then a little bit about what they've
they
done
did
with
at
the
the
Birchmere,
Birchmere,
right?
yeah.
We're going to talk about some of those artists in a second, including one that really is quoted on the back and had a big influence in some of the things he said. Let's go into the main hall.
yeah.
Man, I've been to the Birchmere dozens of times and didn't know this room existed. So what a perfect place to come in and chat a little bit more about the book. What is this room?
It's a tech room, and all clubs have a tech room.
Yeah.
Not as messy as this one,
Oh, no.
but whatever.
I can say this is the first time anybody's been in the tech room to take pictures. I know that.
Well, we'll take that exclusive
But
to
we've got
to the bank.
mic stands, thousands of microphones, any kind of amp a band may want to use.
And a lot of these are vintage
Box of
Fender.
vintage
Box of
stuff.
Frosted Flakes up in the corner.
Yeah.
Cheerios. Now this room has a little bit of history.
Well, the crew hangs out here. I mean, you know, a sound crew does more sitting around than they do working shows.
Right.
But when Ray Charles played here, there was a mystery of why he sat here in that chair, and the band was over in the dressing room, and there's all kinds of stories went around. You tell that story.
Well,
Steve.
when I got here, there were like 4 alternate reasons why Ray Charles didn't want to be with the band in the green room. He wanted to sit in the tech room. He would sit in the tech room for an hour and a half, and literally 3 feet away from this wall, people are eating dinner. And he sat here with Bud, that's the sound engineer, just by himself. And they said to him, well, you know, Mr. Charles, it's only a tech room. And he says, I'm blind, son. And then when it was time for him to perform, he left the tech room and he went and played. And that was the last time he played professionally because he died after that. But I wanted to get in the tech room. And it's amazing. There's so much vintage stuff here.
Yeah, there really is.
If you're a gearhead like I am, cables, going back for... Then there's another place that has the grand pianos and all the Hammond organs and all the big things.
Well, this speaks a little bit too, and I know it came up in the book as well. There's a quote from Arlo and a number of people, Vince too, and we'll talk about him in a minute, about the quality of sound and the quality, how you play almost to the venue. And when you come here, it just seemed to click for a lot of people, and that has a lot to do with your staff, right? The people that have done the sound over the years. And you're a sound guy from way back.
I'm a Whammy Award winner.
Yeah.
Sound man.
There you go, plug even.
I ran the sound for the first 35 years.
Yeah.
And must have done thousands of hours for the Seldom Seen. I always say I knew what they were going to do before they did it. That's why it made me a good sound guy. But,
right.
My crew has been with me forever. They know it inside and out. That's one thing about the Birchmere is all my staff has been with me, and they'll all tell you. A lot of them tell you in the book. They know what they're going to get when they walk in the door. Mm-hmm. That they know who's going to be at the dressing room, in the tech room, on the monitors.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be more proud of that. During the COVID, it like to hurt everybody. We stayed open. Mm-hmm. I wanted just to keep the crew together, and we didn't make any money, but we had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
so.
July 20th you opened up, I think, of 2020, and that was incredible. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of these artists that these guys have put in this amazing book, including Vince Gill, when we go out to the main hall. We'll see you in a sec. Well, this is a treat, because first of all, Steve said that have you ever gotten up on stage and talked to the crowd? Much?
No.
So look, we got Gary Oelze on the stage with Steve Moore here at the Birchmere, and if you look behind, it is a new element of the Birchmere. It is this screen behind the stage, and you see the book cover on there. What a fun thing to have. That's going to be a fun thing for artists coming into the Birchmere, right?
Oh yes, it is.
And you said some have asked for that kind of additional theatrical moment, and now they have it.
Yes, yeah.
And they have videos that play, they have videos that play while they're on stage. It's real, the effect is beautiful.
Yeah, it's going to be a really neat, not that there even needed to be one more addition to any performance here, but what a fun thing that's going to be. And you're going to have some bands, as I was talking with David Beebe, the amazing lighting guru here, and also doing this. He was talking about how some bands just put logos on the back. Eric Benet the other night had a logo just sitting behind. But speaking of artists, that's what this whole book is about. That's what you guys getting together for 2 years to write this book is about. Vince Gill said, and he says it on the back, and it is really one of my favorite, said, when you're a gypsy like me, you look forward to being around a crew of people that are like-minded, and the Birchmere has the feel of a family. What was it like having a guy like Vince Gill feel like that about your place?
Well, Vince is one of the guys like Lyle or that are a number of people that came and played here before that they ever had a record, and they would be opening acts or such, and they grew up with us, and one of my number one rules to Casey
Staff.
and the guys that work the band room is that the opening act is just as important as the headliner, because next year they might be and that happened with Lyle. Lyle Lovett got up. Guy Clark brought him in and said, "Can my friend Lyle get up and sing?" And he did. I don't know, an hour, and the songs were on his next 3 albums. That's how many songs he had in his pocket.
Yeah, what a treasure he is.
And what a gentleman and great guy. But so those are the moments that I remember. That the Guy Clark always brought somebody with him.
Yes.
I think, how does Steve Houk say it? He gets somebody to whitewash the fence for it.
Huck Finn. He gets people to whitewash his thing because he brings somebody on and he has them play a lot of music, and he's over having some.
He don't have to work.
Right.
But he brought Rodney Crowell and Roseanne Cash one night, and they did a 4.5-hour set, and the audience just couldn't move. It was magic, and those are the things that I remember and treasure. And
I believe it. And Steve, you talked about Arlo, which again, what an experience to be able to get. And he goes on a little bit, about the way that the Birchmere applies to him, and what an amazing bunch of things he talks about. He says the staff is like a family. That's how I feel about my band. The sound is different wherever you go, but the Birchmere's kept up with the technology. But what was it like to have a guy like Arlo kind of contribute as well, and any other artists that you guys?
Well, I was thrilled with so many people that I talked with. Arlo's my hero, so I love talking with Arlo. Vince is wonderful, and Vince now's in the Eagles. But Vince first came here when he was 17, played with Ricky Skaggs, Boone Creek, and then Vince has come back 550 times. Now, Vince Gill doesn't have to come back here and play the Birchmere. Right. He can play Carnegie Hall if he wants to, or down in Nashville. But he loves the place, and so when I found out I was going to be able to talk to Vince Gill about the Birchmere, I was really a little nervous. So he calls me up. We had a date, and he calls me up. He says, "Hey, Steve, boy, what a treat it is to talk about the Birchmere." And then we talked for about an hour and 45 minutes. He talked about playing to the room, sound. He was technical. He talked about playing with Danny Gatton and meeting Danny Gatton. So just Vince alone is all kinds of cool stories. But we were able to do that with Roseanne Cash and big Lyle, Janice Ian. I mean, it's another 60 people I could meet that also talked about their experiences at the Birchmere. And I think for Gary, it was the first time that he heard from them what they really thought about him and the Birchmere. And he's already super humble, but I think that really humbled you to hear that.
It did indeed.
It was a very emotional, it's an emotional book.
It did, and we talked a little bit about this when we were doing a little bit of a run through the other day, is that out of about 100 guests that I've had over the last 20 months on Living on Music, local and worldwide, 80%, 90% of them not only played here, but love this place. Don't just like it, they love coming back. And we were giggling. We're going to close out the show in the green room because they love the washer dryer and the showers, and that's all great. But we're going to talk a little bit about in the green room, and Gary's going to talk a little bit again about how he kept people going over the last 20 months and why, because of the team that is here at the Birchmere. We're going to go to the green room and close this out. We'll be back in a minute. Let's go. Well, if you saw, I did a whole bunch of teases before our visit today because I want people to know that this exists, and also a whole bunch of teases about spending time in this room. And some of the greatest moments of my life as a music fan for 50 plus years and as a music writer and a musician for the last 20, to be able to be in this room with people like David Crosby, Steve Earle, Richard Thompson, Ann Wilson. I could go on. And Graham Nash, who basically came in early and said, "No, I don't want to talk to you," and then spent probably 45 minutes in here with Don Barnes from 38 Special, who got us beers out of the refrigerator here and brought them over. We sat and talked about singing. But this is a very special room, Gary. Obviously, it's where people enjoy before and after the show, but they also bring in friends, family, and people, right? Is that This is an important part of kind of the part of the Birchmere?
Well, the important thing is that it's clean. I think you'll hear from a lot of bands that most band rooms you got to wipe your feet when you leave them. You know, we always found that very important to make them as comfortable as possible. We put in washing machines. I think we were one of the first clubs that ever did that. Janice Ian said that's true. So
more than just Janice Ian, because they needed to wash their clothes and coming off the bus.
Yeah. We put showers in. You know, they're on a bus. They live on a bus. There's nothing worse.
Right.
And I had an Irish band here one night. I came back here, everybody was in their underwear. All the clothes every clothes they had was in the.
And Gary jumped right into that scene.
Oh yeah, they were all dancing.
Yeah, that was one of your, hot night, didn't you?
Irish dancing going on. Oh, that is classic. Well, so we were talking a minute ago about, they got the washer dryer back here, they got the showers, they got the amenities. They also got you guys. Why has a family been created at the Birchmere over the years? How did that happen amongst you guys?
Oh, you mean the whole
my whole crew? Your crew.
I sort of let the crew recruit the help as opposed to me interviewing somebody and whatever, and then a person steps up to that position.
Right.
As we go along, and I'm a good boss, I guess. But
please, Steve.
So here's a scoop in the book. And Gary didn't want anybody to know this, but Gary was a musician, is a musician. Played guitar with his brother, knew the Everly Brothers' father, played in Owensboro, Kentucky. So when he came up here, he was a musician. And he actually, you'll read, started a band and was the first band that played the original Birchmere. Then when he got Axe, he put that on the down low and didn't tell anybody. So I would ask people, do you know Gary's a musician? And nobody really knew that. He kept it a secret. And because he was a musician, he knows how musicians tick. He knows the psyche of musicians, how to treat them, their foibles or whatever. Janice Ian, when I told her that, she said, that was very smart of Gary not to share that information with the other musicians.
I never told anybody I was a musician because they might ask me to
prove it.
And no,
it's also because you're so humble.
Well, I played it for fun, like everybody in school, and to see if they could get the girls.
Right.
The guys I hung out with were really talented, and I had to work hard. So I knew that it wasn't my life,
Right. And what you can get out of this book as well, not only the voice of dozens of renowned artists across the world and who love this place, but also the people who are the family and are the people who put this together under Gary's watch and under his amazing team. In a nutshell, if people can get something out of this book, what do you want people to get out of it?
To discover, or like I was bringing up earlier, to discover some of these great guys that I am huge fans of, and just go on YouTube, give them a listen, and I think you'll get into it. Because music's the greatest gift in the world. And,
Hear, hear.
And take Jerry Jeff Walker played the Birchmere 125 times over 40 years.
Whoa.
I mean, if you don't know who Jerry Jeff Walker is, you should be ashamed
Yeah.
of yourself.
So you're opening up a chance for people to get to know some musicians.
Yes,
that they might not
that's what
know.
it's hopefully for.
Exactly.
And everybody in there is just wonderful.
But we've
yes.
tried. We had to be selective, but we have a lot of the top people and some of the upcomers in all the genres. So we've tried to, we're presenting a full 360 on what the Birchmere has done and what we hope we'll do in the future. Can I add one
Please
plug?
do.
Okay, we do want to give out a big thank you to a few people.
Please.
Patty Johnson Cooper,
Yes,
and
love
you know
her.
Patty.
I sure do.
Patty was our editor, and Gary, an inscription to her book. Couldn't have
Yep.
done it without you, Patty.
And there's the book up on the screen.
Right. And also Vince Gill gave us a great slug and gave us a lot more than just his time.
Right.
And Bob Schieffer, the legendary
Yeah.
CBS,
on the back of the book.
wrote the afterword, and you'll get a whole new dimension of Bob Schieffer you never saw before. And Buzz McLean wrote a great foreword, and it's basically titled, a few words about Gary, and he's going to hate hearing all of them. And Buzz takes a deep dive of what is behind Gary Oelze's personality and upbringing. So
There
we're
you
very
go.
thrilled to be here and do this. So.
Well, and I'll tell you again, if you're a person who has beloved this place like I have for the last 30 years I've lived around here, or longer, or even the people that don't even know about the Birchmere, it is a history of rock and roll and folk and bluegrass and all these genres, and how a place has kept it going. Guys, thanks so much
Okay, thank
for
you,
being
Steve.
on Living on Music. You guys are the best.
And our photographer, Dave
McClure behind there. All roads lead to the Birchmere.
He's
Go out and get it on Amazon and where else?
He's really the genius behind it.
You can get it on. He is.
Our publisher is Book Locker, so if you can buy it from Book Locker, that's our preferred, but you can buy it anywhere online. Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And at the merch room here at the Birchmere, signed copies.
And you know what? Above everything, as Michael Jaworek would say too, remember, your road leads to the Birchmere. Hopefully you'll be back here soon enough. Thanks again for joining us for Living On.